In 2018, at the University of Ottawa's Genetics Lab, routine DNA sequencing of Arctic bear samples led to a discovery unlike anything previously recorded. During analysis, a technician identified a fragment of genetic material that failed to match any known human or animal species in existing databases. This anomaly was not simply an isolated reading, as it appeared consistently in subsequent samples gathered from several locations including the Yukon, the Cascade Range, and portions of Alaska. Faced with repeated findings and increasing curiosity, Dr. Alan Bishop initiated a series of internal reports that called for careful verification through independent laboratories to avoid misunderstandings related to equipment, malfunctions, or data contamination. Expert evaluation revealed the genetic sequence in question retained characteristics indicative of an ancient human lineage, one structurally older and more primitive than modern Homo sapiens, yet still distinctly separate from typical animal patterns. The fragment was eventually labeled HC, representing Homo Cascadius. However, due to the unusual nature and potential consequences of such a discovery, it was never published in scientific journals or discussed publicly. Instead, these results were restricted to institutional archives and confidential memos. Bishop's own correspondence highlighted both the anomaly's unique genetic architecture and the possibility that it could point to the survival of an unseen hominid branch. Following this, the first field expeditions were organized, gathering more samples and observing physical phenomena such as wooden shelter frames and marks left by tools whose design defied modern classification. Unofficial reports detailed these finds thoroughly, yet many records were deleted, marked as duplicates or otherwise quietly suppressed. The careful handling of data, the retention of preliminary evidence, and the ongoing institutional caution underscored the emergence of a scientific mystery, one whose implications remain deliberately concealed through strict protocols. In 2020, an official research project was organized under the leadership of Dr. Alan Bishop, receiving government funding with a stated focus on surveying the Cascade Mountain biome. The true mission, however, centered on investigating the possibility of an undiscovered branch of early humans based on previous genetic anomalies. Bishop assembled a team including a biologist, a geographer, an archaeologist, a technician, and a drone operator. The group established their base at a remote, abandoned forest outpost situated more than 60 miles from the nearest settlement, ensuring they worked in isolation. On arrival, they immediately began documenting unexplained signs around camp. At dawn, team members discovered large, anatomically correct barefoot footprints circling the area, raising questions about nocturnal visitors. Motion sensors repeatedly triggered, yet visual feeds showed only shifting fog. As they explored the forest, they noted remnants of old hunting traps, stone pits, sharpened stakes, and split deer bones indicative of recent use and advanced primitive tool craftsmanship. These observations were meticulously recorded in detailed field notes. Deploying drones produced further evidence. Aerial footage revealed several tall figures moving in a straight, purposeful line through the snow. Technical issues ensued as the drone's broadcast flickered and cut out, hampering further analysis. Nighttime brought more anomalies. A perfectly stacked pyramid of stones appeared outside Bishop's tent, although nobody on the team admitted responsibility. Concerns grew, and personal observations were kept out of the official reports. Ultimately, the group chose to end the expedition early, archiving all samples under Code C9. Subsequent archival research unearthed a 1964 interview describing ancient valley dwellers, echoing the expedition's findings. Bishop concluded with a formal note on recurring habitation patterns and requested further study, a proposal quietly suppressed by official channels. In late 2021, an unsanctioned research expedition set out to the Cascade Mountains, its stated purpose geological mapping, yet its true objectives focused on verifying evidence of ongoing human habitation from earlier discoveries. Dr. Alan Bishop spearheaded the team, which included several younger researchers. They arrived near the secretly coded C9 site, immediately noting structural details like primitive log shelters and broad, anatomically accurate footprints on soft ground. These tracks and constructions appeared recently maintained, matching patterns previously documented during prior expeditions. The team deployed drones equipped with both high-resolution video and thermal imaging. The initial footage revealed a landscape marked by linear shelters and sparse vegetation. As the drones surveyed the riverside, thermal scans registered clusters of living bodies. Their silhouettes, distributed in close proximity to water sources, measured over 6 feet in height and moved in unison, suggesting a coordinated but non-hostile existence. Members recorded their observations in private journals, especially detailing heat signatures and print shapes bearing clear resemblance to known hominid models from early evolutionary stages. When some researchers suggested sharing the preliminary results with external scientific outlets, Bishop vetoed the proposal. He emphasized the need for caution, buying time to consolidate observations before possible institutional review. Upon returning, every participant was required to sign a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement, restricting disclosure of all findings. Subsequent satellite imagery corroborated repeated instances of heat traces and camp activity, focused precisely where earlier stone traps had been documented. Before public release, a military convoy arrived and forcibly evacuated all civilian researchers from the site. Official communications announced only limited data on environmental and seismic matters. Behind the scenes, access to internal HC files was discontinued. Bishop was quietly transferred to a northern assignment, and the research team was disbanded, losing contact with their original project. After the most recent Cascade expeditions, authorities initiated a coordinated clampdown on both the area and its data. Military personnel arrived swiftly, citing wildfire recovery as the official reason for evacuation. Civilian researchers, field teams, and local staff were ordered to leave, and access to the region was restricted. Trails into the research zone were blocked with concrete barriers, and signage warned of hazardous conditions. With no warning, operational activities, including all ongoing ecological and biological work, were halted without public explanation. Local inquiries and press requests for access were denied. Within weeks, all professional and public channels of information about Project HC were systematically narrowed. Satellite imagery of the area, once updated in near real time, began to appear with 3-day delays, and high-resolution frames were replaced by low-quality substitutes. Online archives hosting or referencing any findings on HC Homo Cascadius were quietly deleted or flagged as unavailable. Official notice marked the termination of Project HC, with no plans for formal publication of reports or scientific conclusions. The researchers involved were reassigned to other unrelated projects or found their contracts simply not renewed. Many left the scientific field altogether. The Ministry of Ecology issued only non-committal generic statements about ongoing seismic or environmental monitoring in the region, refusing to acknowledge previous findings. Colleagues of Dr. Bishop speculated that he might have continued his research under another agency, but attempts to reach or locate him were universally unsuccessful. Some commercial satellites still captured unusual anomalies, yet their significance was dismissed as sensor error by archivists unaware of HC. Over time, what began as a bold inquiry into a possible new hominid lineage was rendered an unmentionable subject, relegated to whispered conversations at scientific gatherings and rendered taboo within the research community. In 1983, engineer Michael Renner joined an alpine club expedition in the northern Rockies. Midway through the climb, a sudden cyclone struck and radio contact was lost. Rescue teams later reached the camp, finding 3 survivors, 1 deceased and René missing. His body was discovered days later in a narrow crevice, his descent interrupted by a fatal fall. Among his personal effects, a Canon AE-1 camera was recovered with a roll of unexposed film. University specialists developed the negatives, finding that while early frames depicted routine expedition life, sequences from frame 30 onward showed René alone on the snowfields, captured both head-on and from impossible perspectives. Strikingly, post-mortem images revealed René's own figure standing near his lifeless body, shadows pointing in contrary directions. Technical analysis confirmed the negatives were authentic, with no double exposure or tampering. Each shot conformed to documented camera settings. Laboratory staff reported unexplained sensations and loss of electricity during photo development. Decades later, efforts to digitize the negatives uncovered further irregularities. Exposure date discrepancies and a final image of René's silhouette fading into the mountain. After the archivist tasked with the project died suddenly, colleagues found among his possessions a photo that astonishingly depicted him beside his own body at his office desk. Forensic review matched the print to the original film batch, estimating exposure hours before death. With mounting anomalies, institutional reports classified the evidence, closing the case and imposing indefinite archiving restrictions. All findings from the Mount Ellsworth incident remain sealed, with formal warnings against future investigation or dissemination. In 2023, routine infrastructure maintenance at Tacoma's North Point water treatment facility led to the unexpected discovery of a sealed concrete chamber at an unmarked location beneath the plant. When excavators removed the massive steel plate securing the chamber, workers were stunned to find a preserved humanoid body suspended in a viscous, antifreeze-like liquid. The form possessed clear anatomical peculiarities. Webbing stretched between elongated fingers and symmetrical gill-like slits ran along both sides of the neck. The skin was translucent and muscle structure was consistent with an adult human but featured adaptations suggestive of amphibious capabilities. Local officials responded immediately, but jurisdiction was quickly transferred to military personnel and federal agencies who arrived on site. All equipment and materials were inventoried, restricted, and classified. Attempts by maintenance staff to document the find via personal phones or internal communications were blocked. All digital files and images related to the discovery vanished from devices and network logs. Personnel were instructed not to discuss the incident, and most staff were placed on administrative leave in the following days. Unofficial reports soon connected the chamber, marked Reservoir Number 5, to Cold War-era research labeled Hydroanthrop, a rumored program dedicated to creating amphibious organisms capable of underwater living. Yet transfer logs and containment paperwork for the specimen and its removal remained missing or inaccessible. Within weeks, the entire facility underwent renovation, obliterating evidence of the original location. Communication channels with employees and local media were blacked out, and the site was converted for new operational use. In the absence of official statements, only secrecy and local rumors persisted about the true nature and purpose of the Hydroanthrop discovery. Institutional and individual responses to the intertwined mysteries of Homo Cascadius, Mount Ellsworth, and Hydroanthrop have been marked by tight control and deliberate opacity. Efforts to retrieve archival evidence frequently result in unexplained security actions, including abrupt staff suspensions and disappearance of documentation. In several notable incidents, personnel attempting to review sensitive files are rapidly reassigned or placed on administrative leave under the pretense of procedural violations. Even within professional circles, attempts to analyze or reference classified materials are consistently blocked by technical barriers and security alerts. Occasionally, short internal videos or files surface online, causing immediate waves of speculation before officials intervene to suppress and erase the leaked content. These rare clips suggest movement or features associated with the restricted biological materials, yet official statements repeatedly assure the public that no health risk or safety threat exists. All requests for additional information, be they from journalists, research collaborators, or legal authorities, receive uniform responses: records unavailable, information not subject to disclosure, or data classified for security reasons. As facilities close, undergo blackouts, or quietly change function, both scientific and local communities are left in a state of uncertainty. Public transition notices cite benign administrative reorganizations, while privately, researchers acknowledge ongoing speculation about the true scope of suppressed findings. The result is a pervasive silence, with access denied, research halted, and institutional warnings preventing further inquiry. Despite the wealth of anomalous data and eyewitness reports, the unresolved implications surrounding potential new human lineages, unexplained photographs, and the amphibious hydroanthrope specimen persist, guarded by layers of secrecy and official deniability. The resolution of these extraordinary investigations, spanning the Cascade region, the Mount Ellsworth incident, and the North Point hydroanthrope discovery, remains elusive. Institutional containment has continuously outpaced scientific curiosity, with official records for all threads of inquiry sealed, evidence restricted or destroyed, and those involved either reassigned or silenced. Despite persistent, decades-long effort, no official confirmation has ever been granted for the existence of Homo Cascadius or the amphibious specimen linked to hydroanthrope. Yet fragments of suppressed data and unresolved documentation linger, drawing the attention of dedicated researchers and fueling quiet speculation. Within the modern scientific community, a collective silence endures, maintained by the clear risk posed to anyone seeking disclosure. Government agencies have repeatedly taken extraordinary measures to shield key findings from public view, at times risking legal repercussions in the interest of preserving secrecy. Still, while official channels dismiss the phenomenon and forbid open discussion, rumors persist in private conversations, classified emails, and restricted archives. These stories, shrouded in secrecy and denial, continue to raise questions that cannot be easily dismissed by any simple explanation. Ultimately, these mysteries remain untouched, their authentic evidence classified indefinitely by a bureaucracy that values containment over exploration. The search for definitive answers, for truth behind the anomalies documented in field notes, photographs, and recovered specimens, exists now as an open frontier. It is a pursuit stymied not by lack of data, but by the conscious choice to shield knowledge, leaving unresolved questions to echo behind closed doors.